Tonight in 9 News, Novak wins. The world #1 free-to-play in the Australian Open as a judge overturns the government's ruling. No more dancing, new restrictions to stem the Omicron tidal wave, big changes to isolation rules to ensure Melbourne doesn't run out of food. Nervous families front up to protect kids from COVID as supply falls short for GPs. The actor and comedian labelled America's Dad, Bob Saget, found dead in Florida. And a low-key return to training as COVID rips through the AFL.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Peter Hitch.
Good evening. Novak Djokovic is free to play in the Australian Open after a stunning victory in the federal court. A judge found the decision to cancel the world #1's visa was unreasonable, ordering his immediate release from detention. Lana Murphy begins our coverage.
He secured 20 Grand Slams and ruled centre court, but Novak Djokovic's win in the federal circuit court could be his best.
We are absolutely, oh my God.
I feel amazing because he did everything by the books.
After 4 days in immigration detention and a 9-hour hearing, at 5:15 this afternoon, the world #1 was declared free to enter Australia. The judge quashing the cancellation of the unvaccinated player's visa hours after asking, what more could this man have done? The 9-time Australian Open champion driven to a secret location after lunch, after technology broke down. From 10 a.m, Serbian fans lined Melbourne's legal precinct as Novak Djokovic's high-powered lawyers argued that when he flew in from Dubai late on Wednesday, the unvaccinated tennis star had ticked every box. He'd received a travel declaration from the federal government, was granted a medical exemption by Tennis Australia and provided this to Border Force officials. But when he landed in Melbourne, the 34-year-old was told a previous infection with COVID did not make him exempt from vaccination. A transcript of Djokovic's interview reveals he asked officers if it could be postponed until 8:30 a.m. the next day, when his agent and Tennis Australia could supply further information. But a Border Force officer said no, that's not on, and that his shift was about to end. Djokovic's visa was cancelled at 7:29 a.m.
Only one level of government determines that visa, and it's not the Victorian government.
The federal government's advice to Tennis Australia that was set out very clearly in November, as I read the extract from this very podium. It could not been more clear.
The world #1 slammed the decision as seriously illogical. That criticism aimed at the court too, after its live stream of the hotly anticipated hearing crashed.
Nobody in Serbia sleeps tonight because we are all waiting to see if Novak is going to defend the title in Melbourne, and we go for Novak.
In Belgrade, cafes stayed open with supporters glued to every type of screen. But it was one of the tens of thousands of spectators logging on from around the world who interrupted evidence from Djokovic's lawyer. At one point, a user even broadcast adult content. The unforced errors prompting the judge to briefly release Djokovic from detention so he could view an uninterrupted stream of the proceedings. His temporary home again a hub of police activity.
Free the refugees!
Free the refugees!
5 people were arrested before dawn. The group of pro-refugee activists scaling the building, demanding attention for the 32 asylum seekers imprisoned. Detaining one of the world's best sportsmen and fighting to keep him out has cost the country more than $500,000, and still no one has taken the blame. And while it may seem Djokovic has clawed his way back from match point, there's no guarantee he'll make it to the next round. Lana Murphy, 9 News.
Adam Hegarty is outside Djokovic's lawyer's office. Now, Adam, the challenge has been successful, but it's not over yet.
It's not at all, Pete. Pure elation, as you saw there from Novak fans outside the federal court. But for Novak's lawyers here, still a bit of work to do. And that was a threat made in court, in open court. It's sounding like the federal government may try to cancel Novak's visa a second time. I've got a transcript here from the federal government's lawyer, Christopher Tran, read in court. I'll read a bit for you. It says, I'm instructed that the Minister for Immigration, so not the minister in this proceeding, will consider whether to exercise a personal power of cancellation. Those are my instructions to inform the court, Pete. To translate that, it's my understanding, speaking to people in the federal government, that they believe that the judge's decision today was based on procedural law, looking at specifically what Border Force did, but they still believe that Novak Djokovic didn't present the relevant medical documents to back up his claim.
OK, thank you, Adam Hegarty, for that report. Now to Europe correspondent Brett McLeod, who's outside the family restaurant in Belgrade. Brett, what's been their reaction?
Still waiting to hear, Pete. There's certainly a bit of a white Christmas feel today, just a few days after the Orthodox Christmas, and the Djokovic's family's Christmas wishes have been answered, and they were quite confident about this. Yesterday they had their rally, which they were quite sure would be their last rally in the support of their son. They were certain that he would win in the court today, as he has done. They're quite confident he'll go on to win the Australian Open. And they said they had a message to the government, which is to stay out of their son's life and let him play. I spoke to them briefly afterwards. And we're waiting to hear from the Djokovic's. They said that they will speak around midday today, and certainly I'm sure they've got a lot they want to get off their chest after this saga involving their son, Pete. OK, thank you for that report, Brett McLeod in Belgrade. Dance floors will be banned under a raft of changes announced today in response to the Omicron wave and a jump in hospitalisations. They include mandating a third dose of the vaccine for critical industries. Mimi Becker with the details.
Carefree from COVID and dancing the night away. Indoor scenes like this will be banned from 11:59 on Wednesday night under new restrictions. With more than 160,000 Victorians fighting the virus, the changes are bad news for some businesses.
You can get this thing anywhere at the moment. So for them to just close dance floors for businesses like ours, it's a big kick in the guts.
But the state's health system is under pressure and bracing for the worst.
The staff are really struggling with nurses being asked to work extra shifts repeatedly, people being pulled back from holidays.
Hospitalisations are at their highest since the Delta wave in October last year. Right now, 818 people are being treated in hospital, 118 patients are in ICU, while 28 require a ventilator to breathe.
This virus is milder than Delta, just with the sheer scale of transmission that we're seeing. Our hospital pressure is going to continue to increase to levels that we've not seen throughout this entire pandemic.
Of the 34,808 new cases, just over half were a PCR result, while 17,100 were from rapid antigen tests. 2 people sadly died. Experts predicting the peak of Victoria's wave will be in late January, early February.
It's so important that we all do everything we can to drive that curve down as quickly as we can and knock the peak off its spike.
Vaccinations are key, and the third vaccine will be mandated for health, aged care and disability workers, emergency services and corrections staff. Employees in food processing and distribution and quarantine facilities will also need the booster. If they're already eligible, they'll need it by February 12. The government preempting other industries will also be forced to get a booster shot.
We'll have more to say about future vaccination mandates to achieve those same goals in the near future.
To ensure supermarket shelves are stacked and food supplies don't run dry, warehouse and supermarket retail workers will be able to return to work as a close contact within their isolation period only if they're asymptomatic.
Exempted workers will be required to undertake daily rapid antigen tests for 5 days.
The employee has the choice to opt in. We think it's most important that it's up to the employer to provide the rapid antigen tests.
In aged care homes, residents will be allowed up to 5 visitors a day, but they must test negative on a rat. If there aren't any available, only 2 visitors will be allowed. In hospital, visitors must be fully vaxxed, and if not, they'll need to have a negative rat and wear an N95 mask. And when it comes to big events like the Australian Open,
we want to work with those events actively to make sure that they can be continuing, but in a safe and secure way.
Mimi, experts think the true number of cases is actually much higher.
According to the official figures, Pete, 1 in 40 Victorians has COVID, but the acting chief health officer says he believes that number to be more likely 1 in 25, which is truly shocking. But considering COVID is practically everywhere now, people are being encouraged to work from home. And when it comes to hospitality, they're being encouraged to only do seated service. So, as rapid tests become more widely available, Pete, everyone will be encouraged to use them before any social occasions too, Pete.
OK, thank you very much, Mimi. Well, there were smiles, high fives and a few tears as children across Victoria finally received their first doses. But furious GPs have been forced to cancel appointments because their vaccine supply hasn't arrived. Elizabeth Moss explains.
It's as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Well done.
Pressure there for me. 6-year-old Stephanie Vasta among 25,000 children receiving their first dose at a state-run site this week.
Are you excited to get your vaccination?
Yeah. She's got bronchiectasis, so we've been waiting to get it for her so that we know that she's protected and safe.
It was high fives all round at Frankston Community Vaccination Hub, transformed into an enchanted forest, complete with fidget spinners and furry friends.
I think just the level of excitement and relief that we're seeing is really quite palpable.
Thank you for being such brave kids.
From Frankston to pharmacies, the jab now available for 5 to 11-year-olds.
Pretty excited, in fact, because I've been waiting for ages.
And plenty have good reason to roll up their sleeves.
So we could keep playing sport and going back to school and keep our family safe.
Since I'm vaccinated, I'm going to be able to go to France and see my family. You might get a bit tired after getting vaccinated. It will stop you from getting COVID.
So did it hurt?
Just like a little pinch, then just felt like nothing.
While there's plenty of doses for kids at these hubs, elsewhere fridges are empty.
They were supposed to arrive last week. It's now Monday morning. We've had to cancel our vaccine clinics today and likely we'll have to cancel them for the rest of the week.
Balwyn GP Marianne Lancaster frustrated to say the least.
We're sitting here waiting to vaccinate a population that wants to be vaccinated, and we can't do it.
She's not alone.
We're getting phone calls, have you got them, have you got them, are you getting it? Can we borrow some if you've got some?
But according to the head of the National COVID Vaccine Task Force,
there is enough paediatric doses in the country to offer every 5 to 11-year-old a first dose before they commence school this year.
It is a complete lie. The vaccines aren't here. Come and look at my fridge. Come and look at the day we ordered them. They're not here. Where are they?
For many parents, there is a sense of urgency.
We're only 3 weeks away from school starting, and one dose is better than having no doses at all.
And the statistics speak for themselves.
The proportion of infections amongst 5 to 11-year-olds was in excess of 30% of total infections from sort of late November into early December, and that is now 4%.
The government acknowledging extracurricular and social activities during the school term have contributed to that figure. Nonetheless, there's no plan to push back the start of the school year.
We want them back and learning as safely as possible, as soon as possible.
Lizzie, there are still thousands more appointments available.
That's right, Pete. We've been told today that there are around 40,000 appointments for children available at state-run centres, just like this one here at the Heidelberg Repatriation Hospital. That's one of 36 sites which will be able to administer vaccines to children. So the advice is if your vaccine has been pushed back or cancelled, then try booking online at one of these sites.
Elizabeth Moss. More Australian workers could soon be allowed to skip isolation if they're a COVID close contact under proposals to be considered by National Cabinet. Aviation, education and childcare will be affected by the rule change. Fiona Willan has more.